Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Have a really cool product here today from a company called WowGo, the 2S Max. It is feature packed and it could be the best board for under $500. The deck is made up of 8 layers of Canadian maple, 1 layer of bamboo, and 1 layer of fiberglass. It gives you an extremely durable yet flexy ride with it. And I do like it because it does absorb some of the road vibrations you do get from the hub wheels, but it also allows you to feel the road as you carve with the flex that bounces back to it. It has a great U-shaped design, and one of my favorite features that they're doing on this deck is the foam grip tape. This is something that's been out for a little while now for a bunch of other boards, but I like that more people are going towards this route because it really does give you that little bit of extra cushioning that you would feel, less from the road vibrations in that sense. My one gripe with it though is that my front foot, I noticed that when I was pushing pretty hard on it or when I was kick pushing with it, I did see a slight bubble, but it did go away once I stepped on it. So it's just something to kind of keep an eye on when you're riding around there. Maybe it needs a little extra TLC when you're cleaning it later on. The trucks are a 50-degree style truck, which is really, really stable and gives you confidence at higher speeds. This is really nice for people that are new to the sport or beginning in riding. It just allows you to feel a lot more confident when you're riding at high speeds and allows you to have still that carved feel that you would get from any other board. It does come with 85A durometer bushings. For me, it's way too soft. It was unusable out of the box for me. Being a bigger guy, I just was able to really dig into it and immediately get wheel bite. And if you're not familiar with what wheel bite is basically when you have the front wheel or the rear wheel and you lean pretty hard on it and the deck actually hits the edge of the wheel there, it causes it to literally immediately abruptly break. And that gives it basically a jolt forward. I did incur this when I jumped on the 105s and I was carving pretty hard. And as I came up to a sidewalk, I was doing a turn that I normally would do on any other my other boards, and it did stop me dead short. And I kind of had to run out of it. Good thing it was only low speed, but definitely something to pay attention to. 85A is pretty soft, and I kind of wish that they went a little bit firmer on there. But to rectify the situation, you can just crank down on the kingpin there and just get that little compression side there. Or even better yet, you can pick up rip-tied bushings and swap them out for whatever kind of style you want and ride feel you want. So these are hub motors, not belt drive like you would find in other style boards, but hub motors, I started out on hub motors with the Meepo V3, and I've always kind of had a soft spot for these things, mainly because of portability, and the power that they put out is pretty good. These are upgraded from the previous model to 550 watts from 500 watts, which gives you a total of 1,100 watts. Definitely enough to put a smile on my face and get me going. I do find myself riding in the turbo mode, which allowed me to just really get going, especially when I'm going up a hill or I'm on a flat road and I just want to kind of fly up there. I did also hit the max speed of 29 miles per hour, which is very nice because I feel like for these lower budget boards, getting up to those faster speeds, you know, they advertise them, but being a guy that's a little bit bigger, it definitely helps to know that this board does deliver on that promise. So the wheels, this is actually probably one of the coolest features that is on this board here. WowGo went ahead and actually installed sleeve motors, which is the first time I've ever seen one of these actually happen. So this is the 90mm urethane back wheels and the 90mm urethane front wheels. There's a lot less urethane on the rear wheel here than there would be on the full entire front wheel. But the best part is that it's completely hollow. So with these 5 screws, you're able to pop this off and you're able to put on the 105s and get a completely different ride feel that you would out of any other board. And it's pretty cool. I mean, it's definitely one of those features that I would say more companies should look into doing this. But it gives people that are getting into the sport the option to say, hey, maybe I want to try the 90mm, maybe I want to swap it out to 100mm, 105s, and get that different feel without having to upgrade your board or anything down the road. You can kind of grow with your board a lot more in that sense. Now, both the 90mm and the 105s are a 78 durometer, which is definitely plenty hard. This is a pretty stiff feel. It's a 90 by 54mm wide. I truly do like a urethane wheel over the 105. Now, initially when I got on the 105s, I really didn't like them. It just felt like the contact patch, when you visually looked at it, it was a very narrow band on there. So that just led me to believe that I wasn't getting the full contact on the road. So that really wasn't instilling confidence in me, that acceleration, braking, it was a very narrow band. Now, over the week that I rode it, I did ride a lot of the 105s because I knew what 90mm feels like with the urethanes. So I rode a lot on the 105s. that allowed me to kind of wear them down a little bit more, and I saw more of that contact patch like widening up and widening up and widening up to almost the full extent, and gave me that ability to kind of, it like softened up a little bit, which is definitely pretty cool. They are optional, so it's either go with the 90 millimeters or go with the 90 millimeters and the 105s, which I think is a great deal. The one thing I do like about the 105s is that they actually just eat up the road a lot. So all those small imperfections, those cracks, those large bumps and stuff like that, that on a 90 millimeter might stop you dead short, the 105s just kind of glide right over the top of it. Again, it took me a little bit to get used to them, but I'm coming around to it. At the sacrifice of a little bit less torque up on the initial front of it, end of it, it is definitely a nicer ride feel overall. So the WowGo does come with the Hobbywing ESC. This is my first time actually riding in Hobbywing ESC. Hobbywing is smooth. It's smooth, it's powerful. It definitely gives you a great smooth acceleration there. And the braking is really strong too on all of the riding different modes. So it does give you an option of 1, 2, 3, and turbo mode. I found myself in turbo mode most of the time because 3 was great, but I wasn't getting up to full speed, and especially when I was going up some inclines or hills, I think turbo mode just gave it full power to it. The remote is beautiful. It has a large enough screen on there that it gives you all the information you need. Your battery power, miles per hour when you're riding, the mode you're riding in, your tripometer, and your total mile range. Now, while Hobbywing doesn't have a kick to start feature, it does have a standby feature, which basically allows you to turn on and off the board just by simply holding the power button down on the remote. It does turn the board on immediately. After a few days though of not using the board, it does disconnect itself, so you have to then bend over, hit the button, reconnect it to the remote, turn it back on, and then you're good to go every single time you turn it on or turn it off. It does work. The one thing with the Hobbywing ESCs at this level is that you don't get adjustable brakes. Now, I must say that in other boards I've ridden, you do get to choose the brake style and how hard or how soft you get to choose them from. It is nice, but I also tend to find myself that once I get to a certain braking setup, I pretty much keep it there. I very rarely change the braking setup. So if it's at 80%, 90%, or brake mode 1, 2, or 3 on there, I just tend to set it at that point and then never use it again. With the Hobbywing ESC, you don't get to choose it. It's just kind of whatever it is. But I will say that these are definitely strong enough that even from a fast standpoint of like 22 to 23 miles an hour, I was able to grip down on that and stop pretty hard. Wasn't sliding out in the brakes or anything like that, but definitely was coming to a pretty abrupt stop. With the remote, it does have a hidden feature. Mine came with kilometers per hour on there, needing miles per hour for me. I was able to turn off the remote, turn on the board, go into pairing mode by holding down the button for about 5 seconds. It then goes into a pairing mode, which then goes into a new screen once you turn it back on. That gives you the option to choose kilometers per hour or miles per hour. It also lets you choose between hub drive and belt drive. Obviously this is a hub drive, so you choose the hub drive. And then more importantly, it lets you choose the millimeter size of your wheels. So if you are riding 90 millimeter wheels and you go up to the 105s, you do have to set the 105s in there because it will change your speed. So when you're riding, it won't give you an inaccurate speed reading, which is actually a really nice feature. I think that's pretty cool. So it allows you to really dial it in there so you know exactly how fast you're going. And I did compare this with my local speedometer and my speed range test. It's definitely pretty accurate. On to what I think is probably the best feature of this entire board is the battery. It comes with unlimited power. It's a 12S 2P, which is way above than the competition, typically riding a 10S 1P. Now with the 12S 2P, it does give you better battery range, it gives you more power, and it instills a little bit more confidence knowing that they actually took the time to put in a bigger battery pack. Now you can buy boards that do have extended ranges on there, but you are paying a heftier price. This is kind of a one option fits all. It's in between the two different setups there. But at 12S 2P with 5 amp hours at 216 watt hours, it's definitely noticeable range-wise over, say, a competition with a 10S 1P. I was getting on the 90 millimeter wheels around 14 miles of range, which is awesome, I think. Typical riding techniques. I wasn't gunning it at 29 miles an hour the entire time, but anywhere from like your 15 to 18 miles per hour, just hanging around town, hanging out with my friend, just cruising the streets. Definitely got that 14 miles of range out of that. The 105s, no surprise, it did get less range on there, which was around 8-ish miles. But at the same time, you get to kind of enjoy a little bit more peace of mind knowing that rolling over the cracks and stuff like that, you're not gonna like trip up on there. but I did find myself really enjoying that. Getting 14 miles of range on a standard board is pretty enjoyable. Not having to worry about charging up as much as I would have to on a 10S1P, it's a pretty noticeable difference. Now, not everything is perfect. There are a few things that on here that definitely, I would say, need to change. One of them is the port. It's flimsy. It doesn't get into the port very easily, and when it is in the port, it kind of sinks in there a little oddly enough. I don't know if it's like water resistant per se, or doesn't instill the confidence of being water resistant as I would think it would be. If I had one con on this entire thing, is to spend a little bit more time on the port plug and just kind of get that dialed in a little bit better. So it's a lot easier to get in, a lot easier to get out, and it actually feels like it's more water resistant than not. Right now, I don't know if that's true. The second thing is 85A bushings is just way too weak. Even with the 50-degree truck setup, it's just not enough firmness for me. I would say it's not enough firmness for really even a beginner. It's really, really wobbly. When every new rider gets aboard, what do? They pretty much put it into top speed mode and go as fast as they possibly can. I don't know what it is about that, but that's what people always ask is,
how fast does that thing go? How fast does that thing go? How fast does that thing go? How fast does that thing go?
Like, that's the first thing that people do when they jump on the board is just rip it, fall off the back, or rip it, get speed wobbles, and eat it. So I would say 85A, if they could bump it up to 100 in the back, maybe 98 in the front. But again, it's something you can swap out, or you can crank down on it just to get used to the board, and then you can swap out later on with riptide bushings. Overall, I love this board. I mean, it's absolutely incredible for the price that you can get for this board, the specs that are out there, the 12S 2P, the shape of the deck, the foam grip tape, the 50-degree trucks, the swappable wheels, like swappable hub wheels. I would say it's setting the precedent for other competitors to start putting in better batteries than a 10S1P into their boards as a standard range, and then giving the extended range just maybe a little bit bump up. It's not that much more expensive than what you find the competitors. Right now it is running on sale. I'll put the price up here and the standard price right here. Now, who is this for? Beginners. I would say people that are just getting into the sport would absolutely be able to buy this board, grow with this board. Again, being able to swap out different wheels and getting a totally different feel of a board, it's huge. It's something that you won't have to worry about buying this board and then saying maybe not even a year down the road, you're like, oh, I wish I got something that I could have a 105mm wheel on it. This has that option there, which is really cool. It's also great for your college campus commuter. So someone that needs to get from one side of the campus to the other, doesn't want to bring a charger with them, they can rip it all the way from there and back. And also it's light and portable. At only 18 pounds, you can pick it up, you can get on a bus, you can go on the train, and you're able to carry it into class. I also would say that a urban commuter, so someone that is in the city that needs to get around from point A to point B, 14 miles of range on 90mm wheels is absolutely great. I'm literally dripping sweat. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for WowGo for sending this board out to me. I had a really good time with it. If you do just want to buy this board, there is a link down below. It saves you a few bucks, kicks some bucks back to me, helps grow this channel. By the way, if you haven't already and you really enjoy this channel, please subscribe. It helps me. I'm trying to get to my goal of 500. I'm very close right now, and would love to grow beyond that one. I hope you guys are enjoying this content. I hope that you're enjoying me as a person that's doing reviews. If you haven't checked other videos, I did host my first ever group ride. You can click here or here. Had a lot of fun, and a lot more people showed up for that than anticipated. Anyways, thanks so much for coming by, guys, and please wear a helmet. Till next time, peace.